Hey everyone, it's Brandon Burns, Head of Community at Runway HQ. We're back for another episode of the Runway Swerve Startup Grassroots Show. We're at the Pulse, and I'm proud to announce our very special guest, founder of kids fashion blogger, Sandy Zaljevic. How are you?
I'm great.
Good to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Yeah, it's gonna be great. And look, I've been wanting to get some people who are really influential and doing great things in the social media space on the show for a while, because our show obviously is presented to startups and early stage businesses that are finding their way. And one thing we've obviously seen with Runway and where we are is that they rely heavily on digital and social media.
It's huge.
Yeah.
It is so huge.
Yeah, it'd have to be at a point, wouldn't it, where you just can't market your business without it.
No, you can't. And it's forever evolving. You sort of think you've got a grasp on something and then it takes you somewhere else. And you have to learn something else.
Yeah, totally. Well, that's the fun of it, I guess.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Which is a good segue actually to me introducing Sandy properly and maybe throwing to her to find out exactly about her journey, what got her started and the fun that she's had along the way.
Wow, what a story. You know what? I had the girls later in life.
Yep.
So I had both my girls in my 40s.
Okay.
And I decided when I had children that I wanted to stay at home. I didn't want to go back into the workforce.
Yeah.
We didn't have family here either, so it was just an easy transition for me to stay at home. So after Gigi was born, I was like, okay, I'd seen a girl on Facebook and it was the Sydney fashion blogger and she was doing amazing things. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I could do this because I love clothes, I love fashion, and I used to love dressing up the girls. They were like my little dolls that I'd dress up. Anyway, so I started up on Facebook.
Yep.
And then about 3 or 4 months later, a friend of mine said to me, you need to be on Instagram. And I had no idea what Instagram was.
Yep.
So he set me up on Instagram. This was about 6 years ago, or 5.5, 6 years ago we started.
Yep.
Started on Instagram, and I didn't really put the girls up there much. I was just sharing quotes and stuff like that and getting into a groove of it. And, I'm in my middle 40s by this stage, so social media and computers aren't great with me. So I had to ask people, like my niece, she was 19 years old. I'm like, what do I do? How do I do this? And then I started to put the girls up in some clothes and we just flew.
Yeah, really?
Oh my gosh, I was having brands contact me constantly, emailing and wanting to send us clothes and people reposting, and we were receiving probably 10 to 20 parcels a week.
Oh really? Are people sending you products to endorse?
To put on the girls to endorse.
Yeah, wow.
And it was huge.
So this is 5-6 years ago, and at what rate would you say that your following now is about, I think, 112,000 followers, which is huge, very enviable for a brand to try and achieve now off the bat. But tell me about the growth of the following at that stage, and whether it's turbocharged later on in the 5 to 6 years, or if it all happened towards the beginning there, or has it gotten easier to grow the following? Has it gotten harder?
Yeah, okay. So it was definitely in the beginning that we grew really fast. Mm-hmm. Like I said, back 5-6 years ago, there was no H&M in Australia. There was no Zara in Australia. Kids were, fashion for kids was just really sort of starting off, the mini-me sort of stuff. And there was a really big Instagram page from Spain called Fashion Kids that had 1.2 million followers, and they were right into it. So they used to repost our stuff. So we used to get reposted on Witchery, reposted on their page. So there was lots of reposting that was getting us on all these different pages. So within the first year, I think we got to about 55, 60,000, a bit more, probably even a bit more. And then back in that stage then was where I was like, okay, so I'm doing all this stuff, but there's got to be a way of making some money out of this, because I then clicked that I'm advertising for all these people, but I was putting on all this work and not getting any paid.
Yep.
So you network and you start to find out from people, what are you doing? And no one sort of really gives you figures and that sort of stuff. And I was lucky. I actually had a PR company approach me saying that they wanted to manage us.
Yeah, right.
Which was amazing because I can never say no. So they took on board everything.
Yep.
And that's when the money started to come in.
Yeah,
so
right.
From there, it sort of grew even more. I would say the last 18 months to 2 years has been the hardest. I've probably sat at 111, 112,000 I'm getting close to 113.
Yeah.
But the algorithms all changed in Instagram, so
Okay.
everything has changed. So you have to evolve with it all the time.
So yeah, that's an important point. So that brings me to the next question, which is, talk to me about what the business kids fashion blogger, actually does as a business, and what the overarching most important focus is. And what I mean by that is it's not probably necessarily about growing followers. Is it more about giving value to the audience, or is it about relating better to a particular type of person? What purpose is the business serving, or would you like it to be serving?
I think our main serving to our followers is kids fashion.
Yeah.
It's sort of gone as well into mum fashion. So
Yeah,
it's
right.
sort of evolved, because I was never much on the page, but I've been on the page a lot more in the last, say, 2 to 3 years.
Yep.
Lifestyle as well. Lifestyle's a really big thing, because families always want to see where can you take kids, what's good for kids, what's fun for kids, what's coming out, what's not, happening. And also too, I'm a single mum, so that sort of generated a whole new lot of followers as well. So I quite freely talk about our co-parenting and how it all goes and how we do it. So I suppose we've got quite a vast following, and that's been really good and really amazing. But so we not only have brands that come to us that want to get us to put the clothes on the girls and myself, you know, but we get to go to lots of events. And I think too, magazines aren't as popular anymore. People aren't advertising as much on TV and those sorts of things. So where everyone's putting their advertising pool money budget is into influencers and Instagram and social media.
Okay, yeah, that's unreal. Okay, so another question I usually ask guests when they come on is, what's the key to having a successful team? Is there a particular combination or number of people to have in a team? And then I look at someone like you it appears to be doing it all on your own, and you've worked a lot out. And I'm sure there's things that, you'd think back to when you started, that if you could have just had that help or known that earlier, it would have made a big difference. And is there one or two things that take you back, that make you think, if I could just had known that earlier, or someone had helped me with that without having to learn the hard way, that would have helped you on your journey, that a startup might be able to get some value from?
Yeah, I would probably say that I wasn't as business minded as I probably should have been.
Yeah.
I started this off for the love and didn't realise how much it could grow into a business. So I think if you're a bit more business savvy or learned a bit more about business when you're starting off, I think that's really important to know, because I think you need to have a little bit of a plan and a bit of a where it can go. I'm really free spirited, so I sort of just go along with the flow, and I'm really nice and can't say no. And so I probably at the beginning could have earned more money at the beginning than what I was. But then you've got to do what, I think at the end of the day, what works best for you. And I think at the end of the day too, it's not all about the money and it's not all about the followers. I did this because I love it, and I still love it. And I still love sharing ideas, and I still love sharing what's happening. So I think at the end of the day, you have to stay authentic to you.
Yes.
You can't follow anybody else. You can't do what somebody else is doing. You need to do what's best for you and stay true to you and authentic to you. Because I think that once you start losing sight of that and try to be somebody else or do what somebody else is doing, it just doesn't work.
Yeah, totally. I agree.
So I think it's a mix of business, staying balanced. I sometimes think I need more people around me, because I'm really bad at getting back on emails, and even though I have management, I still don't send her enough. That's just the way it works. So I think if you can even have somebody else helping you, with your emails, with your management, of that side of it.
Good time.
I do a lot of photos myself, instead of getting in a photographer. So I think one of my downfalls is time management. So I think time management's really important. Like I said, having a plan and a goal.
Yeah, totally.
Which is really good as well. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's great. So you mentioned before the algorithm with Instagram, and from what I can understand, they've made some change in particular in Australia with likes and that type of thing.
Yeah, started it in Canada actually.
In Canada, okay, cool. So they haven't done it in America.
Well, it started in Canada, it's rolled out in Australia. As far as I know from some of the other mummy bloggers, it has rolled out to America.
Yeah, wow.
So I think it's...
So tell me, right, you know, if Instagram was to change drastically or disappear tomorrow, you know, you've now got this brand that's recognisable and known. Hypothetically, what would you then do next with it, do you think?
Well, I don't work as much on my blog page only because of a change in my lifestyle, but that happens with social media. I think you go through different sort of waves. So I would always go back to that, and then you've always got Facebook, but I don't think Instagram's going to go anywhere.
Yeah,
I think it's going to be here for a really long time. And if Instagram does go somewhere, I think there'll be something else that just takes over from that. Because
and the learnings you got from mastering that, you'll probably be able to
just
apply.
roll on.
Yeah.
I think that this way of social media is just the way that's going to keep going and keep evolving.
So tell me, right, if you had to bottle up maybe your biggest achievement to date on this journey.
Oh, gosh.
And this can be anything, by the way. Like, it can be business, it can be personal, it can be something that we're not expecting, you know. But what would you... I mean, obviously, it's quite thrilling to see that you've been able to build such a following and validate that, you know, what you do is liked and appreciated by so many. But, yeah, like, what would you say is the biggest achievement to date from embarking on this journey?
I mean, that's a really hard question for me to answer because there's not been one particular thing. But when I look back on Kids Fashion Blogger, I think it is just Kids Fashion Blogger.
Yeah.
Like, I just started this off for fun.
Yeah.
And I had no idea where it was going to take me. So it's really allowed me to stay at home with my girls.
Yeah.
And we do this together. We have so much fun together. We get to go on trips. We've been to Bali, like Bella's met Khloe Kardashian, like we get to do so many things and meet so many people that I never dreamt that we would get to do that. Like, and normally we wouldn't get to do that. And the girls, they get to stay in hotels all the time. They're not precious, but they're really grateful and they're really happy that, you know, we can do this. And I would not be able to do it as a single mum. So I think the whole thing has been amazing.
So it sounds like it's quite empowering to have been able to facilitate a lifestyle of your choice.
Absolutely, 100%.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
But you have to be careful too on social media because it can easily swallow you up. You could easily get, you know, quite addicted to it, and you could get quite upset by it, or you could get quite competitive with it, or you could get... But you've just got to take it for what it is and enjoy it for what it is.
Well, that's a really good point. Has there been a point across this process where you've noticed it becoming overwhelming or becoming like you've overworked on it, or it's become like a bit of an issue and you've had to distance or you sort of take a break, or something you've witnessed that with social media that you'd recommend people being aware of? Or
it's not always glamorous. There is that downside of it where you get lots of people that are trolls on Instagram, where it's the people that sit behind and will give you nasty comments or nasty things we haven't had many along the line, but then...
What's your advice to handling that?
I think the best thing is to either... I never generally answered back.
Yep.
I would let it go, and it was I was really lucky, or a lot of people are on Instagram, that it's quite a community.
Yeah.
So you've got lots of friends, they become your friends. So lots of other mummy bloggers become your friends. So I was lucky that a couple of the negative comments that I did have, they would get on and answer for me. Mm-hmm. So they would get on to defend me, and they would be like, if you don't like it, don't follow her.
Yeah, well, so you've got a tribe.
You know, so you have a tribe, exactly, and you have an amazing tribe on there.
Yeah.
So I think the best way is not to argue back, because you are putting yourself out there.
Yep.
Everyone is entitled to their opinion, you know, but of course you want it to be a positive place as well. So you just try to, I would just ignore it.
Ignore?
And then it just goes away. But so that part's not fun. That part can be really hard, you know, and then there can be the part of the FOMO if you're getting missed out on getting invited to stuff. Like a lot of people suffer from that.
Yep.
I think that if ever I feel as if I'm getting into it too much, like mentally getting into it too much, I would just stop. I just take a break. I might not post for a couple of days. I'll just reground myself.
Yep.
And just sort of go, you know what? Why did I start this? What is this for? And enjoy it for what it is.
So is everything that you do on Instagram predominantly from the phone and from the device?
Generally, yes.
Yeah, so
We do have a photographer sometimes.
Oh,
like
yeah.
when we do some big jobs.
Yeah.
When I say jobs, they're big collaborations
Yeah.
with different brands.
Yep.
And they might want photos that they want handed over as well. So yeah, then we get a professional photographer. But the
Cool.
rest is just us.
Yeah. Good on you. I'm so bad at taking a photo. You must have
I
mastered
was
the art.
too. No. And that's the other thing. I'm still learning.
Yeah.
Like, you know, I as I said, I'm an older mum, and I feel as if I need to go off now and have a photography course because it's forever evolving. There's all
Yeah,
this
right.
editing and all this
Yep.
everything that goes on with it. But I need to be careful too because I'm raising 2 young girls, and I don't want them to be swallowed up with social media. And
Good point. Yeah.
I have to be real
Mhm.
so that they can grow up being real in this social media world.
Mhm. Great.
Yeah.
Excellent. I reckon I've got time for this question. I love to ask people. I don't mean to put you on the spot, but is there one piece of advice, you know, you've been given in the past that you wouldn't give someone moving forward in business? Or like, we had a guest on the couch the other week talk about how he'd been told you have to spend money to make money, and he said that's a piece of advice that doesn't necessarily ring true. And I look at a business like yours, and I wonder, aside from maybe having a website
Yeah.
and your time that's been put in,
Yeah.
that would have been a relatively lean exercise,
Yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
But you might not have thought that, you know, going in. You might have thought, I need a big website, and, you know, I've got to spend all this money on marketing. Is there a piece of advice that you've maybe been given, or you've seen someone else be given, that you thought, you know what, that's not quite on point. I wouldn't give that. Maybe something that's quite
Yeah.
common, or
Well, I think what you just said about the website,
yeah,
so mine's been up for, say, 4.5 years now. And
Yep.
as I mentioned, the last 3 years, I probably haven't touched it.
yeah, right,
And I was really encouraged to get a website. Everyone's like, you have to get a website, you have to be on the web, you have to blog, you have to do this, you have to do that, or else just you're not. I was like, okay, so then I researched, and it was going to be a lot of money, and I'm like, do I really need to do this? And so I sort of found one that sort of met money in between, and I look back on it now and I sort of think, you know what, I probably didn't need to do that back then.
Yep.
That's what everyone was doing.
Yeah.
And yes, I will get back to doing it, but I don't think that it needs to be so hard and fast. And I think
Yep.
it goes back to what works for you.
Mhm.
What do you need to do? Just because that's what everybody's doing, it doesn't mean that you have to be on that bandwagon, or
Yep,
that you
brilliant.
have to be doing that as well.
Yep.
So I think just staying true and authentic is the
Mhm.
best advice I can give.
That's unreal. Well, there's other thing I wanted to mention just at the tail of this episode, and that is that in about 3 weeks' time, Sandy's actually going to be our very special guest out at Runway. With the City of Geelong and Geelong Chamber, we're putting on an event called the Clever and Creative Pitch Fest. And the first session is all about social media, and we've got Sandy coming along on the panel, hosted by Kylie Oliver, and she's going to share more of a story there. So if you're listening to this may be published around that time or just after, but we're going to share a link on social media to book your ticket, and also to come along and maybe even enter the competition to pitch your business. So just for everyone listening and watching, the best way to check you out obviously is Instagram.
It is.
What's the handle exactly?
At Kids Fashion Blogger, all one word.
Beautiful.
And you'll see I think we're the only one that's at Kids Fashion Blogger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Unreal. Great name.
Thank you.
Glad you got in first.
I did get it first.
Oh, well, Sandy, it's been a pleasure. Thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see you in 3 weeks.
Yeah, it's gonna be awesome.
You're off again.
Absolutely. All right, guys, we'll see you on the next episode, and thanks again.
Thanks.